Seriously, I'd like to welcome everybody here to the University of Alabama. I had the opportunity to be a student here from 71 through 75, so I've literally come full circle. But I want to get right into my presentation because I really don't have much time. So again, just briefly, my background, as you can see, I started at the University of Alabama, and a couple of years from now I'm going to end here at the University of Alabama. But in between is kind of where things went whatever. I was able to obtain the skill set that allowed me for a tremendous career with the FBI, as you can see. I ended up doing 13 plus years of criminal profiling on a daily basis at the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime there in Quantico, Virginia. And during that time, part of my duties were doing threat assessments. Now, little did I know at that time how that was going to impact my future career. But I ended up transferring to the Tuscaloosa FBI office, where you have to retire when you're 57 years old with the FBI, which is obviously a pretty decent thing. I then worked for a couple of years, as you can see, 2.5 years with Daimler, the overall management with Mercedes-Benz, before the university called and said, hey, we got something that you might be interested in. And of course I was. I knew, my wife knew immediately when that happened that I'd end up here at the university. And what they wanted to do was bring together all of the different areas of threat assessment at the university. When you think about it, a university, especially a large university like the University of Alabama, has 4 separate populations, if you will: students, staff, faculty, and guests. It's an open campus. There are public roads in and out or through campus, so we have, there's not a gate, so you can't allow people on. Everybody can come to the university. So behavior was being handled 4 different ways. So what they wanted to do, the UA administration, was kind of bring things together and look at it the same way. So what I want to do with this presentation is kind of show you where we are right now, and more importantly, how we got here. Looking back, the very first wake-up call that education in the United States had with any type of violence, really, was Columbine, Colorado, high school shooting. As you see, Dylan Klebold, Eric Harris. Eric Harris is as pure of a psychopath as you could ever imagine. They started this whole process, if you will, where unfortunately at the time the greatest mass shooting, it was supplanted by another campus shooting, and then recently the Orlando tragedy took over as the largest mass shooting on U.S. soil. But these individuals, for which, again, just kind of blows your mind, for almost an hour, 50 minutes, were on a shooting rampage within Columbine High School. And at that point, educators, legal people, law people, whoever, had to take a real close look on what was going on. And that's exactly what we did. As you can see highlighted, a focus went from a physical security on campus, and the university's campuses have gone through the same evolution, into analyzing student behavior. In other words, we started looking at the individuals that were perpetrating these types of violent acts to get a better idea on how we, as law enforcement at the time, could better understand and react to what was going on. So, of course, the government, the U.S. government at that time, started putting a lot of money and effort and priority into educational security. Security on campuses from K through 12, and then your upper education locations as well. As you can see, 2 of the major studies, one was the Department of Education along with the United States Secret Service, where they went back and looked at the prior incidents to get some lessons learned and best practices, if you will, on how to address that type of discerning or alarming behavior that was being exhibited previously by the students, but there was nothing in place to document it and react and intervene, mitigate, to get forward on exactly how we needed to move forward. And then back in July of 1999, and I kind of highlight that one because I had the opportunity to attend this one, the FBI brought together a number of individuals from across the country. Not only we had everybody associated that we could manage to get there to this conference from Columbine, because that was the focus at the time, remember, and we went back and again looked at it from the standpoint of law enforcement and education, two areas that had never before joined and kind of looked at an obvious problem. Then we had the horrific second wake-up call at the United States, and this one was at the campus level. April 16, 2007, a Monday morning at Virginia Tech University there in Blacksburg. For those of you that ever had the opportunity to go to that location, just a beautiful campus, not unlike the University of Alabama with the parade grounds. We have our quad, things like that. So it's really strange when you get there and can kind of foresee what the University of Alabama might have reacted in that terrible situation. Again, now everybody in education, it wasn't just K through 12, it was all of education in the United States became very aware of what was going on. And that particular incident, that's why I'm standing up here today, obviously. The University of Alabama wants to ensure that everything has been done to make sure that something like that doesn't happen here at our Tuscaloosa campus or any of the other system campuses across the state. As you can see, we've got preventive phases. Now we're looking at before the incident happened. You've read about it, I'm sure, that the individuals at Virginia Tech never connected the dots. And, you know, looking back in 2020 hindsight, that's probably true. But, you know, again, it's always, you've got 100% when you're looking at things that have already happened as far as what should have been done and could have been done and would have been done under different sets of circumstances. So now, as you can see, we began to pick up, we being just education in general, on, let me go back, on exactly what was indicative of that individual being at a risk prior to the actual action that they took. And again, we started utilizing risk assessments, as you can see, behavioral threat assessments, and looking at see how that could have affected and how we could learn from that for future events. Again, the preventive phase, what you want to do is intervene prior to something happening and certainly not after something has happened. Behavioral threat assessment, again, now we're getting into a situation where we're looking specifically at the act. And what do? What does my office do? Well, my office is myself and a sergeant that's assigned to my office from the University Police Department. And we routinely look at discerning behavior. How are we alerted? We're alerted a lot by people like you who see something in the classroom that doesn't look right, and that's really why I'm here today. I want to make sure, and we're going to talk about some of the things that you might be looking for, but if you have any questions, problems, uneasy feelings or whatever about a particular individual, you got to bring them to someone's attention. Bring them to your professor, bring them to my attention. That's what we're here for. We want to ensure that we don't react and that we can be very proactive and get that individual the resources that they need and can help them enhance their time here at the University of Alabama. Some of the things, though, that I do on a routine basis, as you can see, we get into background histories, both personal and criminal in nature. We look at personality, behavioral, mental health history, and then some dynamic factors, some things that are changing, such as their environment, personal changes, depending upon how they were brought up, what their age is, and their situational, their peers, the individuals that are aware or around that particular person. The threat assessment process, pretty simple. Identify all the people of concern, persons of concern. The problem is getting the information on these individuals. Second, determine if there is a risk, and that's what my office has been tasked with. If there is a risk, and if there is, we have it very simple. You know, I don't like rubrics. I don't like to put a number on something. It's low, medium, and high. And depending upon where you are in that medium risk level, you're going to get addressed very, very quickly. Manage the posed threat by direct actions. In other words, don't just talk about it or look it up online or call other police agencies or call back to a high school counselor or whatever. Talk to the individual. Talk to the people around them. Talk to people like you that might have daily interactions with these individuals. That's the key to getting the best information that you can up to date as well. Continuing on with the what we have done here at the University of Alabama specifically, we have a multidisciplinary behavioral threat assessment team. Dr. Pagani here that is helping you guys get started is a member of that team. We'll talk about who he exactly is. But what you try to do is bring together as many different types of resources as possible, but you can't get too many. You can't have 5 or 10 people or more than 10 people in a room and expect to get too much done. But we meet on a weekly basis to discuss the persons of interest, whether they're students, faculty members, or staff members, and sometimes we talk about outside visitors also, although most of our outside visitors we can better handle with the University Police Department. We assess their limit or their risk level, and then if we happen to be talking about an individual that has a background that we're not familiar with, here at the University of Alabama, they're subject matter experts in probably every different topic area you can imagine. So we will reach out and bring those individuals into our meetings. Continuing on, and this is just something I threw up there because it's something you hear about and think about over and over and over. Most individuals, and I've got students listed, but most individuals making a threat never carry that threat out. And I'm talking up in the upper 90%. If somebody's talking about it, that's where they're getting their personal gratification from talking about it as opposed to doing it. If somebody's going to do it, chances are you'll never hear anything prior about that from a threat standpoint. Now, there will be leakage to peers and individuals around the individual, but not a specific threat. Here are some of the common characteristics, and this is just what I've put together over the years with my experience based back with the FBI as well as my time here at the University of Alabama. These are some of the common characteristics, as you can see, of a potentially violent individual. And some of them are pretty obvious. Somebody whose fascination with and access to weapons. That's going to be something that I focus on almost immediately. It's one of those things when you're talking about it, but it's also one of those things when you're actually go forward with committing the act. And again, I think you've been provided with a copy of that. I've got it on the threat assessment website, so don't want to hang too much time on that. Our objective here at the University of Alabama, again, identify the individuals, assess those individuals, and then prevent or minimize UA's exposure to a violent act. Again, a fairly simple premise, but you want to make sure that you can move forward with that. Our goal is obviously the safety and security of everybody here, including yourselves at the university. You can't come to work, a student can't go to class, worrying about the kid next to him wearing all black with a camouflage hat. That's not what the University of Alabama is about, and that's not what we're going to allow to happen here. But again, we also want to provide that individual with the appropriate resources. The university has a tremendous range of resources here. You're going to be hearing from Dr. Lee Keys, head of our counseling center, after me, and those are the types of people that we reach out for and utilize in these types of cases. Real quick, I said I'd go, these are the individuals on our BIT team, Behavioral Intervention Team. As you can see, Office of Student Conduct, an assistant police chief, Title IX coordinator, someone from Norma Limley's office, the Office of Student Care and Well-Being. Those are the decision makers. In other words, when we meet as a BIT team, we can not only talk about an individual, we make the decisions on what needs to be done, what types of sanctions need to be applied, should that individual be allowed to continue to attend the University of Alabama or not. Here's the paradigm that kind of explains it all. Here are your 4 populations. You talk about students since we have probably close or over 38,000 coming in. If there's any type of alarming behavior, we're notified. It goes to the student behavioral behavioral intervention team for us to talk about. Usually, we can take care of it at that level. However, as you can see, if the activity, whatever, alarming behavior supersedes that, it goes up the chain to the threat assessment specialist, which is me. We do an assessment, and then perhaps it goes to the threat assessment team. So we have layered areas that we can go to to continue to investigate a particular individual. And again, I'm almost out of time, so I want to make sure that I give the next person enough time. I'll close with this particular slide, which notes the threat assessment website. My information at the bottom, again, Charlie Dorsey, extension 2834. If you ever have any questions about this type of behavior, please let me know. That's what my office is there for, and we'll absolutely get to the bottom of it. I'll leave you with this last slide, put a little humor into it. Some of you might not have believed that I was actually a student here at the University of Alabama. Well, bingo. There's an action card from the fall of 73, spring of 1974. So you know what? I mean, bottom line is an FBI agent is a tough life, because now look at my act card. Kind of sad, kind of sad.